I will teach you how to feel it, for everything begins and ends in feeling. Your entire world is but a mirror of what you have dared to accept as true within yourself. If you will but learn to feel, not as the world tells you to feel, not as circumstances persuade you to feel, but as your own inner conviction directs you to feel, then you will discover that reality bends itself to the state you occupy. Feeling is the secret doorway, the invisible power that shapes what your eyes will one day see and your hands will one day touch. When I say feel it, I do not mean to pretend lightly or to wish vaguely. I mean to surrender your whole being into the assumption of the wish fulfilled, to let your body, your mind, your breath, and your imagination melt into the reality of what you desire as though it were already yours. The outer world may scream otherwise, the senses may deny it, but the inner world where you dare to feel is the only true reality. For what you feel deeply and persistently will harden into fact. Think of this. Every event in your life today was once only a feeling you allowed to take root. Perhaps you were not aware. Perhaps you were careless with your inner conversations. Perhaps you allowed moods to shape your world without discipline. Yet, the law is unfailing. What you feel to be real becomes real. If you walk in the mood of lack, life will echo with lack. If you dwell in the mood of abundance, abundance will gather itself around you. It is not chance, it is law. So tonight, I teach you to feel it. Not tomorrow, not someday, but here and now. Imagine what you desire most, and then ask yourself, what would it feel like if it were already mine? Not what would it look like, for the picture alone is not enough. Not what would it sound like, though sound can help. The question is feeling. What would it feel like? What would it feel like to stand where you long to stand? To already possess what your heart burns for? To already live the life you dream? Close your eyes in this very moment and dare to enter the state. If you long for love, what would it feel like to be cherished and adored? Not to hope for it, but to feel the warmth of it now. If you desire wealth, what would it feel like to be secure, free, abundant, unshaken by tomorrow's bills? Not to wish it were so, but to feel the relief, the gratitude, the freedom as though it were done. If you seek healing, what would it feel like to move in strength, in vitality, in wholeness? Not to desire it, but to feel the ease of it coursing through your very being now. I tell you, the moment you enter that feeling, you have touched the reality. The world may not instantly rearrange itself before your eyes, but it must conform, for the unseen always precedes the seen. Like a seed planted in the dark soil, your feeling works in silence until it breaks through into the visible. Do not dig it up with doubt. Do not tear it apart with fear. Rest in the feeling, nurture it with faith, and let it unfold. Perhaps you ask, but how can I feel it when everything outside denies it? I say to you, the outside world is only a shadow. You are not commanded to accept the shadow. You are commanded to rule the inner world. What you accept as real in imagination, what you feel with the inner senses, that is what casts the shadow tomorrow. Do not look at the shadow to decide the reality. Look within, to feel it when nothing outside supports it. That is the great art, the great power. There will be moments when you are tempted to return to doubt, when you feel foolish to claim what your senses deny. Yet, I tell you, that is the very moment to persist. To persist in feeling the reality when reason argues against you. That persistence is the difference between those who live as slaves to circumstance and those who master life. Let me share with you a practice. Tonight, when you rest upon your bed, let the day fade from your senses. Let your body grow still. And then imagine the scene that would be true if your desire were now fulfilled. Do not merely see it. Feel it. If it is a home you long for, imagine walking through its doors. Feel the floor beneath your feet. Touch the walls. Breathe the air as if it were yours. If it is success, hear the words of congratulations. Feel the pride swelling within. Shake the hands of those who celebrate you. If it is love, feel the embrace, the tenderness, the quiet certainty of being chosen. Whatever it may be, let the feeling flood your being until you fall asleep wearing it. For sleep is the gateway, and what you carry into that silence impresses itself upon your deeper self. which then expresses it in the waking world. Do not make this complicated. The law is simple: what you feel as true, you create. The only difficulty is your own unbelief, your own habit of feeling according to the senses rather than according to your desire. But habits can change. Just as one trains the body, so must one train the imagination. Return again and again to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Even if at first it feels like pretense, persist. For feeling repeated becomes natural. And what is natural to you becomes reality. I say again, you are not called to beg. You are not called to hope vaguely. You are called to create by feeling, to accept the state as though it were already yours, and to walk in that state until the outer world reflects it. This is how all great things are born, how every miracle in history has taken shape, not by waiting, but by feeling it done. When you understand this, life ceases to be a struggle. You no longer chase after things as though they were outside of you. You realize they already exist within, waiting for you to feel them real. You no longer cry out for proof always comes after faith. You no longer bow to circumstance, for circumstance is but clay in your hands. So I tell you tonight, dare to feel it. Whatever it is that your soul yearns for, feel it real now. Not tomorrow, not when conditions improve, not when others agree with you, now. For now is the only time there is, and the eternal now shapes all tomorrows. Carry this practice with you in waking and in sleep. Feel it when you walk, feel it when you speak, feel it when you rest. Let it become the atmosphere of your being, and soon the world will echo it back to you in form, in fact, in flesh. For what you dare to feel deeply, you inevitably create. For the art of feeling is not merely a trick to acquire things. It is the very foundation of creation itself. The life you live right now is nothing more than the harvest of feelings once entertained, some consciously, most unconsciously. You walk through a world shaped by yesterday's moods, yesterday's assumptions, yesterday's inner states. And if you will accept this truth, then you will also see the key: change the feeling within, and you change the world without. Do not wait for someone else to hand you permission to feel great, to feel worthy, to feel wealthy, to feel loved. You are the only author. If you wait on another, you will wait in vain, for no one can give you the state but yourself. Begin where you stand, with nothing but your imagination and the willingness to surrender to its truth. That alone is enough to shake the foundations of your current reality. Many will say, "But I cannot feel rich when I have nothing in my hands. I cannot feel loved when I am alone. I cannot feel healthy when the pain remains." And to them I say, this is precisely why life remains as it is, for they give power to appearances rather than to imagination. The outer always lags behind. If you insist upon feeling according to the evidence of your senses, you will always remain bound by what is already past. But if you dare to ignore the senses and feel from the reality you long for, then you are planting the seed of tomorrow today. The question then becomes, how long will you persist? For feelings must be persisted in. You may feel it for a moment and then return to doubt, and then you wonder why nothing changes. But the law is clear: only what is felt consistently, repeatedly, and naturally is impressed deeply enough to manifest. So I ask you, are you willing to dwell in the mood of your desire long enough for it to become the air you breathe? Are you willing to clothe yourself in the feeling day after day, night after night, until it is second nature? For when it becomes natural to you, the world must mirror it. Train yourself gently. Do not fight the senses with strain, for effort is not required. Relax. Enter the silence. And there, in stillness, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Allow yourself to be lifted into that atmosphere until it feels more real than what your eyes behold. If you will practice this faithfully, you will discover that what once seemed impossible begins to unfold in effortless ways. Doors open where walls once stood. Paths appear where there was no ground. People, circumstances, and events rearrange themselves as if by unseen hands, because the unseen is always moving to match the seen. And when you begin to taste this power, when you see even the smallest proof of it, let that strengthen your faith, for the smallest seed is enough to grow a forest. The smallest answered feeling is enough to convince you of the truth, that you are the operant power, that nothing is withheld from the one who dares to feel it real. So tonight, again and again, I say to you, learn to feel it. Learn to walk as though the dream were fact. Learn to speak from the end, not of the end. Learn to let the joy of fulfillment color your words, your thoughts, your posture, your breath. For every atom in your being responds to feeling, and every atom in the world responds to you. And the longer you remain in that state, the more the invisible substance of life hardens into visible fact. For the law is unfailing, and life cannot deny the one who refuses to step out of the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Every feeling carries within it a vibration, a frequency that calls its likeness to itself, and you cannot escape this truth. If you dwell in fear, you summon more fear. If you dwell in joy, you summon more joy. If you dwell in wealth, even when your pocket is empty, you summon wealth from the unseen reservoir. The world is not punishing you, nor is it rewarding you. It is simply echoing back the feeling you have chosen to inhabit. Do you see why I urge you to feel it before you see it? Because sight is always too late. By the time you see with your eyes, the feeling has already done its work. So you must become bold enough to walk by inner conviction, not by outer evidence. What if in this very moment you refuse to bow to appearances and instead clothe yourself in the state of already being what you desire? How different would your posture be? How different would your voice sound? How different would your very breath feel? For when you shift the inner state, everything outward must eventually bend. It is not enough to say the words, for words without feeling are empty. You may affirm 1,000 times, yet if the words carry no feeling, they vanish like smoke. But let one word, one phrase, one silent inner picture be saturated with feeling, and that single impression has the power to alter the course of your life. This is why I do not merely tell you to repeat, I tell you to feel. For feeling is the one substance that impresses upon the deeper self, the one medium through which creation takes form. Now, let us go even further. Suppose you desire freedom, freedom from worry, freedom from lack, freedom from doubt. How would you feel if you were truly free? Can you sense the lightness in your chest, the expansion in your breath, the calm assurance that tomorrow holds no fear? Let that feeling wash over you. Do not ask when or how it will come, for the moment you feel it real, you have already stepped into the state. The outer world will find its own ways to echo it back. If you desire companionship, do not dwell on loneliness. Loneliness only breeds more of itself. Instead, feel the warmth of being desired, the joy of being chosen, the ease of partnership. Carry that feeling with you as you move through the day, and you will find the world strangely rearranging itself to match that mood. The phone call comes, the stranger smiles, the door opens. Not because you chased it, but because you carried the state of already having it. If you seek success, do not dwell on failure. Failure is only the shadow of yesterday's moods. Instead, feel the triumph, the certainty, the quiet power of already standing where you long to stand. When you feel it, your actions will carry a new boldness, your words a new authority, your presence a new weight, and the world will rise to meet that vibration. This is why I insist again and again that you practice daily, not as a burden but as joy. For the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. At first you may feel like an actor upon a stage pretending in vain, but persist, and soon the state will wrap itself around you until you forget you ever doubted it. Then the world has no choice but to conform. And I tell you, the most marvelous part is this: once you have learned the art of feeling, you are free from the tyranny of circumstances. You will never again be a victim of bad luck or unfortunate events, for you will know that nothing can come to you except by the feeling you have entertained. And if something unpleasant should arise, you will not despair, for you will understand that the remedy is always within. Simply shift the feeling, and the outer will shift as well. So do not ask, when will it come? Ask instead, am I feeling it now? For the now is the seed of eternity. What you feel now will be tomorrow's harvest. If you plant doubt, doubt will return. If you plant faith, faith will multiply. If you plant joy, joy will blossom. And no one can plant for you, only you hold the soil of your own mind,